Hey guys, this is starting to get cold out, and you're kind of wishing that you could get out and do some stuff outside with your bikes. I know I am, and I'm playing around with them here in the garage. It's not exactly too cold out yet where I can ride, but it is to the point where I'm thinking about winterization and things to start talking about with your motorcycle for winterization. Are the big things we should really talk about. One is your gas tank, and two is your battery. No, not all bikes have a battery, but all bikes do have a gas tank. For those of you that are storing it in a heated shed, something like what I have, it's not the world's biggest concern with gas tank condensation and battery charge. It is a good idea to keep it on a trickle charger or some kind of battery maintainer, but at the end of the day, if it's heated, it's not a huge thing. You're going to lose a little bit of volts, but nothing major over the span of winter. You can leave it on a charger, or I wouldn't say a charger, do not put it on a charger. You can leave it on a maintainer if your charger has some kind of maintainer, trickle charger, tender, whatever you want to call it. That's fine. I don't put any of mine on. I've never had issues with them starting in the spring. As long as you leave the battery indoors somewhere where it's warm. So if you don't have a heated shop, you're storing it outside because you don't have a shed, or you're storing it in a cold shed where you don't have heat, take the battery out and then put it inside your house, put it in your mechanical room. That's what I did for many years. This is the second year I got in a heated shop. So that covers your battery. The second thing is that you want to make sure that your gas tank is full or empty, completely empty or all the way full. Gas does have a tendency to separate and winds up relieving water out of it. I'm not exactly sure of the science behind it, but that's kind of something that happens. So you can put a fuel stabilizer in there to help keep it good, or completely drain it if you have a carbureted bike. If it is EFI, it is a good idea to fill it all the way full. Now, you don't need fuel stabilizer in there. It will be just fine. You can start it up come spring, and the bike will be just fine. I did it for many years. I didn't run stabilizer. I'm starting to put stabilizer in them now, and I'm not seeing any kind of huge benefit of doing it. Not saying that there isn't a benefit, because there is. It stabilizes the fuel, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. The biggest thing, though, is if it's not in a heated shed, that you want to keep it from condensating just naturally through the weather, the cold, the heat, stuff like that. You'll see frost build up on your tank. It's going to get inside also, and it'll start condensating, and it'll start getting water into your gas on top of just the gas separating. You're not going to get a huge amount, but it is to the point where if you don't have a plastic tank and your tank is a metal tank, you're going to want to make sure that doesn't rust out. Also, if your tank has a fuel pump in it, you're going to want to make sure that that's not rusting out either. So you definitely want to make sure that's submerged in fuel. Now, this bike doesn't have a fuel pump, and it is a plastic tank, so it's not like something you really got to worry about, I guess. It's very easy to drain this completely empty. You can drain a tank on something that's fuel injected and then run the engine till it dies. Either way works. It's up to you how you want to do it. So those are like the big things that you should do. Now, there are other things I've seen online, and I kind of want to go over them. I guess one thing that I've read about is oil changes. And should you change oil when you put it into storage? Should you not change oil when you put it into storage? Should you wait till spring, do it in the fall? I would suggest always do it in the spring. Don't ever do it when you put it into storage. Some people are like, but then it's ready for you. Yes, it's ready, but at the end of the day, everything has an expiration date. Gas has an expiration date. That's why we put stabilizer in there to make it last a little bit longer. Even though you don't see any kind of huge problems with it come spring, it's just, it does help preserve it a little bit longer. Same thing with oil, has an expiration date on it. So if you're going to change it in the fall, it's going to break down some come spring, and then it's just not going to be as good. So if you get fresh oil in the spring, it's best to change it in the spring. Another thing I've read about is tires. People are wondering about tires, or I guess people don't wonder about tires, but people are commenting about tires. Are these babies going to get flat spots in them? If you have a good tire and if you got it pumped up adequately, flat spots are the least of your concern, I guess, because a good tire should not get a flat spot in it as long as it's adequately pumped up. If you are concerned about it, you can grab yourself one of these awesome rugs. And I think I paid like 10, 12 bucks for this at Walmart. Throw it onto your tire if you are absolutely concerned about it, but it's not something you should be worried about. If you wind up finding what your max PSI is on this tire and running with that. And it should stay if you check it throughout the winter, because you might have steel grams and it might wind up shrinking down. You might leak out some. Maybe you don't have a good seal on it. Come winter, all of a sudden she starts leaking a little bit. You can check your tire pressure. So if you want to, you can go ahead and make sure that you got this tire pumped all the way up to the max PSI rated for this tire, and it will hold just fine. You will not get any flat spots. Anyone that's telling you otherwise is lying, or they don't wear out their tires enough to the point where they have old tires and the bands inside it are breaking down and they're not holding like they're supposed to. So the next thing I guess people are kind of talking about is the coolant. And you should make sure that you have, I guess this goes into one of the three, I'll say this is one of the three things that you should definitely be looking at when you're storing your bike, especially if you're storing it outside, because you can't get it inside a heated shop or shed, heated place. And that is your coolant, making sure that your coolant has antifreeze in it, not that you're just running water. If you're just running water in it and you're storing it outside in a cold spot, it can crack your engine. So make sure that you have antifreeze in there, run it through, make sure it's adequate amount. If you have to, drain some out, put some in, completely flush the system, because every 2 years or so, because just like anything else, there's an expiration date on that, and you want to make sure that you keep that up and up. So yeah, flush out your system if you have to, and then make sure you got a good amount, 50-50 antifreeze water in there. The next thing, I guess it's not really a necessity, but it's not a bad idea, especially if you're storing it in a cold area, is the chain. Making sure that your chain is adequately lubed up. You want to keep them O-rings in good shape. They can dry out, they can freeze, stuff like that in the winter. Get some oil on there. Don't wipe it down too much. Leave it on a little thick, and you'll be just fine come spring. Your O-rings won't break down as much, and you'll be happy that you did such. Other than battery and gas tank coolant, there isn't much to really look at when it comes to storing a bike. As far as necessities on what you need to make sure that you don't wreck anything. Even then, if you don't store the battery properly, you can go out and buy yourself a new one. It's not a major inconvenience, I guess. Yes, it is $100, but it is a lot better than wrecking your engine. Getting water down inside, stuff like that. So I hope this helps people out, and yeah, you guys ride safe, have fun, stay warm.